Hey everyone, I'm here with our tiebreaker, Maryann Ries. Welcome back to the show, Maryann. How are
Hi.
you?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Great. So I wanted to have you on. You are a high profile agent here in Cincinnati, and one of the ways that you've done a lot of your business is through a geographic farm.
hmm
So could you tell us a little bit more about that and if you think it's a good way to do business now? And what does it
Um,
take?
yeah, I think so. So advertising is about reach and frequency.
Mhm.
So the important thing about any type of advertising is the quality and quantity of the reaches, and
Mhm.
then the frequency.
Okay.
So the only thing not to do is to try one thing one time and then say, "Well, that didn't work," because
Right.
that never does. I can tell you
Mhm.
that for free. You don't have to spend any money to do
Right.
that. Um, and then as far as geographic farming goes, I think that we all have to kind of reframe the way we think about geographic marketing today, versus when I first got my license, which was 16 years ago. Um, so, for example,
Mhm.
when we um, when we hold an open house, we pay Facebook to send that open house post to everyone in that zip code.
Okay.
And that's a very economical way to get on people's feed. Um, so if somebody is looking for a move up house, or they're looking for something different, that house will
Mhm.
come up in their feed. They also have the technology of people that are searching for homes in that geography that you can buy those touches
Oh,
and
like a
get.
targeted
Uh-huh.
ad.
It's like a
Nice.
targeted ad. Um, so so that is a type of geographic farming, but it's not the same as like when I first got my license and I went around my neighborhood and knocked on everyone's door
Right.
and had an introductory letter that I'm in real estate now.
Mhm.
Um, Although door knocking is still a thing, I think it's a little bit dicey with COVID right now,
Mhm.
but there's nothing like face to face contact.
Yeah.
So,
So do you I know that, you specialize in, like, one particular kind of, like, neighborhood or area here
mhm,
in Cincinnati.
yep,
Are you and you're talking about frequency of touches, and are you doing those touches now with
yep,
that neighborhood? Okay.
yep.
So if you were gonna start your career over, would you do that again?
You mean go knock on doors?
Go do, like, your Mount Lookout touches that you do.
Yeah, yeah, because I think that like there's so many benefits to having a concentrated geographic area. Um,
Mhm.
for example, when we have a listing in a geography and we're doing an open house, we'll have um, all kinds of directionals and signs and what have you. And then let's say you have two or three listings in the same neighborhood and you have, say two or three signs for each one.
Right,
And suddenly you have nine signs, and people are like,
right.
"Oh my God, I see your signs everywhere."
That's
So
true.
that kind of that, and then that instills confidence in the people that live in that area that you are an expert in the area. Um,
Yeah.
and then you kind of have to go and prove that to them when you meet with them. But it's
So when
certainly.
you're talking about the frequency of the communicating with them, it sounds like it's open houses, door knocks, like, what else are you doing to instill that confidence and get your name out there? And how often are
Um,
you
well, theoretically, you should be doing you should be doing it every day. I can't say that I do, but that would be
Right.
ideal. So, just listed and just sold calls. So
Mhm.
calling around the geography. Um, so much of our database lives in this area too. So when we have a listing and we do just listed, just sold calls, um, we will stretch that geography. It's not just the 20 houses around it, but it's like anybody that we know that lives around there that's going to be driving by, that we will call them and say, "Hey, we're listing a house. It's going on the market on Thursday. Do you know anybody that would be a good fit for it?" So
Right.
that does a number of things. It's still doing business call. It's,
Mhm.
keeping in touch with your database.
Mhm.
And then it's also promoting your listing. So
I also had a thought too. You could really call the people of like wherever the buyers live now. You could call those people too. Because
yep,
it's likely most people will only they'll move within a couple miles most of the
yeah,
time. So
yep.
that's still technically a geographic farm, probably,
Hmm.
or it's close.
Yep.
What do
So,
you think? A lot of people think like a geographic farm is like an expensive way to get business. What are your thoughts on that?
well, just listed, just sold calls. We use Vulcan 7, which I don't know what we pay for that a month. Maybe, I don't know, 100, $125 a month. Um, and so if you get one listing as a result of that, that's well worth it. But
Mhm.
Vulcan 7 also, you can do your expired, you can do your for sale by owners, you can do
Mhm.
all different types of calls.
Mhm.
But for just listed, just sold, I think it's pretty economical. The social media boosts, gosh, I think we pay like $10 a week or something to promote our
Okay.
open houses that way. So that's
Mhm.
not super expensive. Now, direct mail, which was my next. So we talked about social media, we talked about just
Mhm.
listed, just sold, we
Mhm.
talked about door knocking. And then the fourth way that I have on my list is direct mail.
Mm.
That is not inexpensive. And the
Yeah.
thing about direct mail is you really have to commit to a campaign to make it worthwhile. So
How long and
I
how
would,
much?
well, I would say um, if you're doing just listed, just sold postcards, that's not super expensive. But I also don't think it's very effective because that's kind of a one-off thing. But if you want to do a neighborhood, I would say that you would want to hit it at least once every 60 days. And then after you do it for a year or so, you could probably stretch it to once a quarter.
Okay.
But you want to be sure that everyone is seeing your name associated with listings in the neighborhood
At least every
very
60
frequently.
days
Like
for
so
like
that they're
you're thinking
thinking,
like 2
wow, she's
years.
really
Yeah.
doing a lot or what have you. But that can be expensive if you think about it. I think a postcard costs about $1 a piece with production and postage. So if you're doing 1,000 households and you're doing that 6 times a year, that's $6,000.
Right.
So it just depends on how. I mean, if you get one good listing, that pays for all those postcards. But um, and then you can also see if your broker will share the cost or what have you,
Or the lender or somebody.
or somebody. Yeah, you can kind of co-market that,
But what
make
do
it
you
less
think? I
expensive.
mean, you pretty much dominate that market. Is it as because you were making the calls, you were door knocking, you were sending mail? I mean, is
Well,
that what you
nothing
attribute that to?
nothing brings more business like signs. So the more listings you have in a specific geography, the more dominant people perceive you to be. And then you get calls saying, I see your signs everywhere.
Right.
Um, and so I wanted to see if you would like to interview to list my house.
Well, and a lot of people too, I tell them if even if you have the buyer, your buyer, when it closes, they'll let you put your sign up for a couple
Yep.
weeks or a
Yep.
month.
And we do
So
that.
go
We
ahead
do
and
that.
do that,
I had a
like
SIP decline agent that I used to work with that got really mad at me for doing that in the neighborhood that she lived in. She had the listing. We
even
sold
better.
it. We sold the house. We put the sign up and she was like, she sent me a text message and said, WTF. And I'm like, don't you do that? Like, why wouldn't you do
Right.
that?
Why not?
And she was like, oh, I guess that's
Oh,
probably a good idea. She kind of backed off. But anyway,
that's
the
hilarious.
direct mail. And then I think the other thing that I tell new agents all the time is there's nothing like market knowledge to bring credibility to you, particularly as a
Mm,
new agent.
mhm,
So back in the olden days when we used to have parties, like if I went to a Christmas party in a given neighborhood, I would
mhm.
always check the comps before I
Oh, good
went.
idea.
And then people would say, oh, have you seen that house over on that street, the next street over? And then I'm like, oh, the one with the purple
Yeah.
basement. Yeah, I did see that. And that doesn't mean that I've walked into it, but I saw the
But you
pictures.
could. You could
Right,
preview it on your
right.
way.
So I think that is really important to make sure that you know more about what is going on in real estate in that farm than anyone that you talk to.
Mhm, mhm.
So if you're going to farm, make sure you know what's going on in the neighborhood, what's coming on, what went pending in 2 days. Oh yeah, that one went in multiple offers. I heard they had 16 offers,
Right.
whatever it
That's
is, but
awesome.
just keep up on it. Um, because people will ask you. The
Yeah.
other thing that I think is important about farming is to project yourself as always working. So
Mhm.
that means this is hard, but not wearing sweats to the grocery store, looking like you're going to an appointment or coming from an appointment.
That's a
Um,
great idea.
yeah, when you go to church, look like you're coming from an appointment or going to an appointment, and always, um, and whenever somebody says, "How's business?" I tell new agents this all the time. I don't care if you sold one house last year and you've sold two this year. My business has doubled this year. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
You have to be positive about what is going on in real estate. That's a lot easier now than it
Yeah.
was during the recession. But during the
Yeah.
recession, you had to think about really great things to say all the time.
Mhm.
Um, and then
Or be like, "Hey, are you buying or selling?" You know?
exactly, yeah. And I ask, or who do you know that's buying or selling? I think that's
Yeah.
um, and then I put down previewing every single property that comes on the market in your farm. You have to walk through
Mhm.
every single house. And that's just a habit you just have to get into if something comes on the
Yeah.
market. It used to be that we did it every Tuesday, but that's not really a thing anymore. But you have to designate a time during the week that you're going to go and preview so that you know what is going on, particularly before an open house, which is the last thing I had on my list is open houses. I know Mike Ferry doesn't like open houses, but um, open houses have been a great source of business for us.
Mm,
We sell about 40% of our listings as a result of open houses.
nice.
Um, and the national average is 2%. So, what we tell sellers is we think the reason that is because most top producers do not hold their own open houses. They send an email out to the office, and anybody that has a pulse and a real estate license, they're fine to do an open
Mhm.
house.
Yeah.
We rarely let other people do our listings.
Well, because 'cause
Um,
you're networking.
yep, it's a very good way to do farming marketing. So I guess my in a nutshell, what I would say is geo farming is still a very good marketing tool, but we just have to
Mhm.
reframe the way we think about it
Mhm.
with today's tools and technology.
I love it. So these are really great points. I'm gonna put them all, like, in a Word document, and then I also have in a document the 7th levels of open houses. So if you're gonna do an open house, like, how to do it correctly, like making the calls and all the things that you suggested, having the signs, holding it open yourself, things like that. So people can find that if they go to jennifermertland.com/vault. They can find that information. But if somebody has a referral for you in Cincinnati or they have a question for you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
513-470-0564. I
Perfect.
I also have an email address, but everyone misspells my name. So my phone number is definitely the best way. 513-470-0564.
That's awesome. Well, that was really helpful. And I think a lot of people, it was really enlightening and some great tips. Thanks a lot, Marianne. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right. See you next week.
See ya.